Hey everyone, this video isn't so much a story like all the other ones. This is more kind of just like a basic commentary video that, I'm posting. But pretty much the topic of this is, I consider it to be pretty important, and that topic is, being sober. And I don't mean like staying sober and like being straight edge, or I mean, I guess so, but like not like forever. But, what I've noticed is, I've definitely had, like, some phases where I would just, like, smoke every day, or there'd always be something I'd want to be doing, whether it's smoking weed. If I didn't have any, I'd try to be drinking, and if I, like, couldn't do that, it would kind of just suck, and I'd be just, like, on my mind all the time. I'd be thinking, like, man, this fucking sucks, I really wish I had this, I really wish I had that, and it was kind of just, like, a bunch of thoughts about, substance, which, when you really think about it, that was a fucking voice crack. When you really think about it, like, you really, like, deeply, like, actually, like, think about it and, like, consider, like, this, like, sort of mindset and this level of thinking, you kind of realize that it's not too good, it's not good to be just, like, craving something, like, all the time. And while this necessarily doesn't usually mean that you're addicted, you're still, like, thinking about it all the time. And, if you're just, like, smoking all of your brain cells away, like, all day, every day, especially if it's, like, all day, like, every second of the day, like, all the fucking time, like, especially if you're, like, faded to the point where you don't know what's happening, that has consequences. Like, I know people say that, like, sometimes, like, weed helps them with, like, tasks and stuff, and, there's a bit of truth to that, sometimes I've, like, taken some hits of, like, a sativa pen, and it made me more, like, focused on my work, and I could get shit more done more efficiently, but, it becomes harder. Like, what I've noticed is, like, you also notice that it becomes, like, quite a bit, like, reasonably, noticeably harder to, like, learn new things and actually, like, be yourself whenever you're under the influence of some shit. Yeah, like, if it's just pot or, like, a little bit of alcohol or, like, a microdose of shrooms, you're still gonna be yourself. You're not gonna be, like, completely altered into a different person. Maybe a bit, because you're high, but, like, other than that, it's kind of just, like, it's not something you should always be doing, in my opinion. Like, for example, this is a story for another time, because this is a long story, and, this isn't really a story, this is more just a commentary. But, one time after I took, like, a ton of shrooms, this was, like, a heroic dose of shrooms, I had to go to the hospital because I was catatonic, and, my blood pressure was, like, spiked really high, and they tested me, and they found a bunch of psilocybin and THC in my system, so my parents decided that I had to quit, and they were going to watch me like a hawk, and this is pretty much how I got on really thin ice with them. Like, they did not trust me with anything at all, which really sucked, and, during this time, I also lost, like, some friends, so, it was overall just, like, kind of sucky, But the reason this period of time is important is because over this period of time, I realized that pretty much I had to stay sober. And honestly, I was like, you know what? I can kind of fuck with that, like, I'll stay sober, I won't do more of this shit until a bunch of time passes, I'm gonna take a break, not gonna go fucking straight edge forever, but I'm definitely gonna take a break. And what I've noticed is you do still enjoy your life while you're sober, like, definitely. And there's certain things that you can get when you're sober that you just can't get when you're fucked out of your head. You could say the same thing about getting fucked out of your head. There's certain things that you can get during that you can't really get while you're sober, but both of them are both pretty worth it. And, like, the worthiness, like, of being sober and, like, actually, like, the whole feel and, like, the benefits of that, a lot of people, like, take that for granted and just, like, choose to smoke all of their brain cells away all day, every day. And, it can just, like, really be bad for your mental health. And this isn't a video for me to say that, like, weed is bad for you or, like, any of these, like, soft substances that, like, really aren't really bad for you are bad for you. That's not what I'm saying at all. Obviously, I do think certain things like acid and even like shrooms, in my opinion, and alcohol definitely, without a doubt, can have like tons of negative impacts. Especially alcohol can have like negative impacts on like your overall physical health and your mental health. That shit's literally liquid poison. I kind of like it, but still that shit's bad. But pretty much the whole point of what I'm saying is just that you don't need to be using shit 24/7, and you can still like live a good, decent life like without needing to have this shit. And in my opinion, I actually think life is better when you spend like, I'd say, half of your time or even most of your time just completely sober. Because another thing that's like kind of a benefit of being sober that a lot of people who really like to get high would actually like take a lot of fun in is whether it's like shrooms, acid, weed, or alcohol or anything like that like I'd consider safe, or like I'd be okay with. Obviously, acid and whatever still has consequences. Like, that shit can fuck your head up, it can, like, you have a bad trip, that shit can scar you, be careful. And I'm not saying, like, go do this shit. I'm just saying, like, if you have experience, you've done it before, you know what you're doing, then why not? I don't condone the use, I don't want to get my shit taken down. I don't want to get my shit fucked by YouTube. So I gotta say that, and I really do mean it, you can say. But needing to like wait for all of this is just better all around. It's good for your health, it's good for getting shit done, it's good for maintaining your personality, it's good for like keeping kind of your social presence and like your social persona and kind of like how people view you. Because you're more of like a person, and you have like more of a personality when you're not just known as the guy who gets high all the time, and you actually have other shit that you can do. Like, I know certain stuff can like increase kind of like your emotions and like your overall like mood, but also you're more kind of yourself when you're just, you, like, no substance, no nothing, just be you for, let's say, just a day or 2 days, hell, if you're even feeling up to it, a week. I done a week, it was pretty good, I felt like myself, and, obviously, if you want to get back into it, go right for it. Just the whole point is that you're able to, you're able to not depend on this stuff, and you're able to still like live without like depending on this stuff. And that shows that you're like you're able to control like your environment around you. And that's a really good and really important aspect about being a human being. And that's like genuinely something to be proud of. I've seen a lot of people get pretty addicted to some of the stuff, even if it's just something as soft as weed. I've seen people get addicted, and honestly, it kind of sucks, because when they don't have it, they can become really angry, they can like pick up an attitude, and it'll just be overall bad, and it's probably best not to end up like that, which I've been nearing that path a couple of times before, but I'm glad I've never gotten fully engulfed, because being sober is important, and I think it's definitely very great, and this isn't really something that should be taken for granted. Anyways, hope you enjoyed me just like yapping, I guess, about like the importance of being sober. Obviously, I'm not saying be straight edge and just like throw everything away and it's all horrible. Do what you want, you got free will. Not so much a religious guy, like, not a religious guy, like, at all, no hate to religious people at all, friends with a ton of them, but that's just my opinion. Anyways, I hope y'all enjoy. It was pretty hard for me to lock in and post this one. I'll try to post another tomorrow. Hopefully that'd be a story time, but yeah, I'll just leave it at that, and I'll see y'all in the next one. So yeah.